Hey there, guys. Welcome back to the show. The Raiders kicked off OTAs this week, so we're talking some ball now. And to do that, we're bringing in my good buddy, Scott Gulbransen. If you're a member of Raider Nation, you know who he is. You've heard him on your radio, the Silver and Black Today podcast, and now you can catch his work on Vegas Sports Today. Scott, how we doing, man?
Doing great, Jesse. Always great to be back, talk sports with you, and specifically to talk Raiders.
Yeah, you got to love it. So, we only get like 1 day a week, really, to hear from the players and all that stuff. I'm curious, with week one in the books now, what was your biggest takeaway from week one of OTAs for the Raiders?
Well, I'll tell you, there's a couple players I'll talk about, but overall for me, when I look at OTAs and what we saw from the Raiders in week one and what we're hearing coming out of there is not so much about the players, but instead about a coach, Gus Bradley, on the defense. Listen, Jesse, you and I sat together out at Allegiant Stadium last year. We saw how bad that defense was and how it underperformed, even though it had some talent on it. So you bring Gus Bradley in a better scheme. He's got young players there, but he's also got these veterans that he brought in, guys like Casey Hayward, and then guys like Jonathan Abram, who he's switching up, moving to box safety. So I think Gus Bradley and that defense, because let's face it, the Raiders offense, it needs to get better in certain spots, especially in the red zone. But when it comes to this team making a push and getting in the playoffs, that defense has to get better.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I agree with you. It begins and ends with the Raiders defense this offseason, when the season starts, all the way through it. You name it. I mean, they gave up 263 yards a game, ranked 25th in the NFL in defense overall. I mean, you fix that, and then things start to change. In your mind, what do they have to do in order to just become serviceable? Because if they do that, then it's really a game changer for this Raiders team.
Well, two things, Jesse. Number one, they have to get the most out of the young talent that they invested the draft capital in. I mean, you're talking about Trayvon Mullen. You're talking about Damon Arnett, who, let's face it, yes, he was injured, but his freshman campaign, if you will, wasn't that great. So by bringing in Gus Bradley, bringing in that system, bringing in a guy like Casey Hayward, who you heard Jonathan Abram talk about how valuable he has already been for those young players to understand what it is that Gus Bradley wants and what it is that he expects in that system. That's the kind of thing that you need to see there. And I also think you need to get more out of that defensive front. I think one of the guys that really sparkled in week number one was defensive tackle Darius Stills out of West Virginia, the undrafted free agent who came in and really all the guys, all the veterans especially, were talking about this kid and what he does. And we know what that defensive line problem has been. They've been unable to create a pass rush. So not only do you have this young kid at defensive tackle, but you've also added other guys up there as well, which are significant, those three technique guys, which you really need to get in and need to rush the quarterback so that defense can create turnovers, which in turn, by the way, Jesse, will create a lot better opportunities for Derek Carr in the offense.
Yeah, definitely. And we could talk about the defense till we're blue in the face, but let's switch it over, talk a bit of the offense. What are you kind of watching throughout OTAs offensively from this team?
Jesse, it's all about the offensive line, right? I mean, you had a big turnover there. You drafted Alex Leatherwood first in the round, which was kind of a polarizing pick for some people. You have Richie Incognito back. You have a new center in Nick Martin. So that offensive line and how this OTAs, the reason I think it was vital and so important that you saw, despite them being voluntary, especially coming out of COVID, was that there were a lot of guys at OTAs in person. And I think that showed the commitment of that unit to start to get together, because that team has got to be able to protect their quarterback. They got to create the holes for Josh Jacobs, and they got to bring that offense along. That offensive line is going to be huge.
100%, man. And as we get out of here, talk to people a little bit about what you're doing, where they can find your work.
Sure, yeah, you can check us out. We're covering the Raiders and all Las Vegas sports. So whether you're following the Golden Knights during their playoff run, you're following the Las Vegas Aces, you like boxing or UFC or even esports, you can check us out at vegassportstoday.com, where we have a multitude of writers there. Of course, our young Buck hockey writer, Noah Stray, is covering the Golden Knights run here in the NHL playoffs, and that's driving a lot of traffic to the site. But yeah, check out vegassportstoday.com, as well as check out some of our podcasts, including our Just Pod Baby podcast with Evan Grote, which you can also find on the site.
Awesome, man. Hey, you guys are going to love it. Make sure you check him out. You can also find him on Twitter at LVGoalie. Scott, again, thanks for the time, man. We really appreciate it. For now, guys, stick around. We'll be back with more right after the break.